I want to tell you a story today that, honestly, sounds completely made up. It's about how a single, bizarre, accidental moment can turn your greatest source of shame into your most profound gift. It's a powerful look at how a person's life can be completely redefined when they least expect it.
Just think about that for a second. That one thing you might hide or feel kind of embarrassed about, what if it suddenly became the key to your own awakening? Sounds pretty out there, right? Well, for one man, this is exactly what happened.
So to really get the sheer scale of this transformation, we have to start at the beginning. We need to understand the world he was living in before everything changed, a life that was pretty much defined by discomfort.
All right, so let's meet our guy. His name is Jean-Luc Dubois, a 45-year-old man living in Paris. Now, on the surface, his life probably looked pretty ordinary, but underneath, he was dealing with a very private and often very difficult reality every single day.
You see, Jean-Luc's whole life was shaped by this unique physical condition he'd had for years. It caused constant physical discomfort, and, he had to adapt his entire lifestyle around it. But the weight wasn't just physical, It was the emotional burden, the curious stares from strangers, and this deep, persistent feeling of shame that just never went away.
And then, on what seemed like a totally normal day, one single misjudged movement changed absolutely everything.
Picture this. It's a quiet Sunday morning. Jean-Luc is just sitting in his chair, and he goes to shift his position. A simple, everyday movement he's probably made thousands of times before. But this time, something went horribly wrong. A tiny miscalculation, and in an instant, the unthinkable happened.
And the result? Bam! Just immediate, unbearable pain. The kind that lands you straight in the emergency room. At this point, this is nothing but a purely traumatic event, a painful freak accident with what seemed like zero possible upside.
But what happened next is where this story just goes completely off the rails, in a way that nobody, and I mean nobody, especially not the doctors, could have ever predicted.
So get this, as the medical team is working to address the physical trauma, something absolutely extraordinary happens. Right in the middle of all that intense pain from the accident, Jean-Luc experiences an orgasm he later described as transcendent. It's this incredible paradox, right? A moment of physical emergency becoming at the exact same time a life-altering experience of profound pleasure.
In his own words, Jean-Luc called it a spiritual awakening. He said it changed how I view life, my body, and pleasure itself. This wasn't just some physical sensation for him. It was a fundamental shift in how he saw the world and himself. And you might think, okay, this is just some weird, freaky, one-off event, but it actually fascinated the medical community. As one sexologist, Dr. Laurent Dupont, pointed out, this case is a perfect example of the complex, often blurry line between pain and pleasure. Neurologically speaking, the brain pathways for intense pain and intense pleasure can actually overlap. Jean-Luc's experience became this stunning, real-world example of that deep connection.
But believe it or not, the incident itself was just the beginning. The real story, the true awakening, that all unfolded in the days and weeks that came after.
So, after he was kept under medical observation, Jean-Luc's body started to heal physically, but his mind was on a completely different journey. He began this period of really deep emotional and psychological reflection, and it led him to this place of radical acceptance. Today, he doesn't see his condition as a burden anymore, not at all.
And this quote from him, wow, it just says it all. I used to be ashamed to hide my condition. Now, I see it as a part of who I am. That just perfectly captures the full circle of his transformation. The very thing he spent years hiding was now something he could finally integrate into his identity, not with shame, but with total acceptance.
But a profound personal change like this, it's not something you can just keep to yourself, right? Jean-Luc's journey evolved from this private, internal awakening into a very public mission. He became what you might call an accidental advocate. Jean-Luc started speaking publicly about his story, not for attention, but to promote messages of body positivity and self-acceptance. He encourages a more open conversation about the huge spectrum of human sexuality, and in doing that, has become this incredible symbol of resilience and the beauty you can find in our differences.
When you step back and look at the whole thing, Jean-Luc's incredible journey is just this powerful, if really unconventional, reminder. It shows us that true, life-altering transformation can pop up from the most unlikely and even the most painful circumstances. What started as a moment of total misfortune became this source of profound wisdom for him.
And that really brings us all the way back to the question we started with.
Jean-Luc's story is, of course, totally unique, but the theme? That's universal. It really makes you wonder, what parts of our own lives, the quirks, the challenges, the things we might hide, could hold their own unexpected potential for transformation? It's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining me on this one.